Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Harmony. I am a twin flame expert helping twin flames around the globe face fears, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Welcome to my weekly glow show. Today's topic, we are going to talk about finding yourself on the other side of the rainbow bridge. And what does that mean? What is the rainbow bridge? And what is the other side of ourselves? So we're going to talk about that first. I'm going to share with you some ways you can find yourself, how you can get across and through the portal of that gateway of enlightenment on the other side of the rainbow bridge. And I'm going to share a little bit about my week and how that aligns with this as well. So first of all, the goal here is when it comes to finding ourselves, it's about completing wholeness. It's about coming into harmony. It's about coming into balance. It's about expansion. And that's where this energy timeline that we've had with this full moon in Aries that we've had over the last couple days now, the energy of this portal is opening up for us to really find ourselves, find the other side of ourselves, and complete integration of both sides of ourselves. So a lot of the people that I've been seeing this week are experiencing extreme highs and lows. 1 minute being completely up and the next minute being completely down, and kind of questioning and asking kind of like, what's wrong with me? What do I need to be doing here? Am I going backwards? Am I crazy? Well, this is creating the expansion and the fullness of yourself and the emotional range, as well as your activating in experiencing, I should say, the greatest amount of pleasure on one end as you experience the deep amount of pain on the other end, creating the range of your emotional status, which this moon has really helped to do. It's the purpose of this is to create what I've been shown through a couple different ways is the triple infinity, which is the alignment of yourself, connecting to yourself that aligns you with source as you connect with the source, and then you're connecting with beloved in that space, whether in 5D and or 3D, which is why all these reunions are taking place in this time frame as well. Because in the process of this, it's enhancing us connecting to ourselves, connecting to purpose, connecting with beloveds, and experiencing more pleasure and love and the fullness of who we are basically in this range. So, really what this ultimately means is we're tapping into our sacred self, which is the side of ourselves that is the return to innocence of the beginning of time and connection to all that is and all that it is that we came here to be. So basically meaning unlocking inside of us what it takes to become the best version of ourselves, which is what this is all about, this whole thing. In order to find your best version of yourself, you have to do what I've been shown is crossing the rainbow bridge of enlightenment. And really what that means is get the death of your old self, your old ways, your old beliefs, your old patterns, and then recreating yourself from that higher state of being. And as you recreate yourself from that higher state of being, what's happening is it's bringing out a side of you that you've never known, that you didn't know existed, or maybe tapping into a side that you haven't seen in yourself before. And this is where it's coming to the concept and the idea of creating the harmony and the balance of all of you, which at the end of the day is creating the integration of yourself that is creating heart harmony. So in the heart harmony, you're coming into the balance of this oneness and this fullness, and so that you can experience love to its greatest capacity, not only for yourself, but for what you do and for experiencing love with your beloved. And in the process of this heart harmony, and becoming connected to source, basically, in the source energy, it's about going through a portal of energy as we cross over through the resurrection from the rebirth of ourselves, going into the resurrection of our higher self. Now, we've all heard, when an animal crosses, like the dogs cross, and they cross the rainbow bridge, and that really means they're returning to light. So this means we're returning to source in this process, meaning we're aligning with source in our 3D reality and bringing that into form. And it's not an easy job because it really is the death of our old self. It just is. And you feel it, and it even hurts. And so one of the things I got to tell you, first of all, that I have noticed, with this creating this new identity, which is what this is all about in our 3D reality, of how, if you've been following me, you saw that I've shifted from blonde to brunette and did not even intend to. But I'm going to share with you and show you an image that I've been seeing I've really been noticing and paying attention to this. If you look at my videos and the images of me prior to, when I was blonde, you would see one side of my face. And naturally, I didn't even know this was happening, the images of the new version, the new identity, the brunette, is I'm facing the opposite direction in each of those images. And I really didn't even know I was having a tilt one way or another. But I have. And this is where I'm saying the wholeness. So I'm going to actually put an image up here for you to see. I'm probably right about in here. And as you can tell, and if you can really see this, and if you can't, make sure to check out my videos to see what I'm talking about, that it's just pretty bizarre. And when I saw that myself, it's I realized, I found the other side of me in this process of crossing this rainbow bridge, which is ultimately the ascension process that I've been being shown as being 4 phases, I should say. There are 9 stages of the rebirth. There's 4 phases of the ascension. And the first phase of the ascension is going through the rebirth and then going through the resurrection. And as we go through that rebirth into the resurrection, we're having a death of our old self into the resurrection of our new self, our new identity, our new best version of ourselves. But in the process of becoming that best version of ourselves, now we're expanding. We're being able to this is really spreading our wings and coming into both sides of ourselves and coming into the fullness and the wholeness of who we are. That is then aligning us with source, which is putting us in the vortex. And how we get into the vortex is the heart harmony, which is the diamond light. And the heart coming into restoration of wholeness, completeness, feeling full and loved, and feeling the expression of both sides of all of these things I'm talking about, pain and pleasure. And so what we have to do in this process is, first thing we have to acknowledge both sides of ourselves. We have to acknowledge that both of these sides exist in us. Because what we try to do is cut out one side or the other side, or we try to run from ourselves thinking what is wrong with us when we're at a low, thinking that we shouldn't be at a low, that, that's not an acceptance of ourself in that space. And when we can accept ourself in that space for where we are, which is the second part of what I'm about to say, then when we accept ourselves for where we are, then we stop fighting the process, we let go of the resistance, and then that helps us to then do number 3, which is allow ourselves to just be where we are. And that allows us to experience the inner peace and the empowerment of both sides of being, on one end being at peace, on the other end being empowered, and being able to express and expand all sides of ourselves without, beating ourselves up or sabotaging ourselves because we're not a certain way that our old self thought we should be, because we weren't in our perception, we weren't accepting and we weren't acknowledging that that was a side of us that existed. So you have to acknowledge both sides of yourself. You have to integrate both of those sides. And then you have to, the integration of that is then accepting yourself for both sides of yourself. And then allowing yourself just to be in that space, whether you're at the high or at the low. And then this is where the heart harmony comes in, that puts you in the vortex, which is the the phase 3 of the ascension process, which is the rapture, where we reap the rewards, where we get to experience milk and honey and all the things that we're showered upon, really, that are abundance, really. And so, again, those phases are, we're going through the rebirth in order to come out and resurrect. We have to cross the rainbow bridge to get across that. We come out of the other side of going through the vortex after creating the heart harmony that helps us align with Source. And when we align with Source and we are in harmonic balance of all of ourselves and all that is, and we accept that and we allow that, we're now allowing the blessings and the receptivity of the miracles to come, the abundance to come in all forms. And that being the rapture. And when we do this and we're creating this triple infinity of connecting to ourselves in harmonic balance and our Source with harmonic balance, that creates number 4 of this fourth phase, of the ascension journey. And in that 4th phase is the reunion of a combination of first self, which is really the union of self, meaning you came into the fullness of yourself now. And that means that you have accepted both sides of you and you've aligned with Source, you've aligned with spirit and purpose and beloved and yourself and all of these things. And you're creating abundance in your life. And in that abundance, abundance is really just energy. And that we're manifesting that energy into form, like physical 3D form. And we do that through this process of aligning through this gateway. So, and to, again, I just want to say this one more time because it's so important, the things we need to do to get on across this bridge, to go from the rebirth into the resurrection, to shift into the vortex of the rapture in order to then experience the reunion, basically. We have to first acknowledge both sides of ourselves. We have to then accept ourselves for where we are at that given moment, whether it be a high or a low. And now we have to allow, which is just be and experience both sides of the pain and the pleasure and the inner peace and the empowerment. And that is where we shine. That is how it is. That is where we will always be. And that is alignment. And that we will always have these highs and lows. We are not going to get to a place of not. And it's in the just being, and being in that now and allowing is where we come into a place of being in the now, is where we allow, really, is what I'm saying. So the key for you during this energy is to find your other side. Accept the other side. So find it, meaning acknowledge it exists. If accept it and then just allow it. So what I want to share with you for a minute of just how this kind of relates to the timeline of, where this energy is, where I am. As I always say, I walk the walk to talk the talk. And then what some things that has happened to basically validate this for confirmation and revelation for my own self and my own alignment, my own journey to share. I just want to share with you a little story and a reading from my next book, which is all about this. So my next book is Twin Flame Codebreaker. It's a 5-part series, and it is 12 key codes, and it is the secret to unlocking your truth and finding your sacred self in that process. But to get through that process, you have to go over the bridge, the Gateway of Enlightenment. You have to cross the rainbow bridge. And I just want to thank all the people, the clients that have worked with me, and you know who you are, that helped me in the timeline over the last 2.5 years kind of build this bridge of enlightenment. And I also got to tell you that this bridge of enlightenment is not only the book to come, but it is also my Reboot Your Soul program and blueprint that I teach my clients 101, that I also just launched last week, the Reboot Your Soul online coaching course that is got the same principles, the same exercises, and the same bridge to help you get on across this rainbow bridge to find yourself on the other side and unlock that truth so you can connect to your sacred self. So I want to thank all of my clients that have helped me build this bridge over the last 2.5 years of knowing it's called the Rainbow Bridge. And then I also want to thank an artist, Tatiana Hansen, that I want to share with you, like a story about that this week, for being able to be on the same, in the same vortex, really, because I want to show you how it works when it shows up, what happens and what manifests when you're in that space. Also, I want to thank Billy Rood. I want to thank you for getting this book cover done in a timeline that I just recently knew that there was a timeline. Didn't even know I had a timeline on getting something together for this book cover because I wasn't told of the timeline until it was like, okay, we need it now. And so anyway, bottom line is these two are going to bat right now to put this into physical form, and they're in the process, really on board with making sure that this comes through in a way that it's delivering guidance message here. So just to give you a little background on that, I had known I had this and I was looking for images. I originally had an image that was connected to my twin flame journey that I was shown multiple things of saying, this is it, this is the cover. Well, I accidentally saved the file in a too small of a file, and then when Billy told me that I needed a bigger file image, when I went to find that image and get a bigger image, the image had been removed and could not be found and has been taken off the site. And so that image no longer exists, nor can it be the cover now. So one, I'm going through this process this week of letting go of my chiropractic, which is also connected to my twin flame journey, which is also connected to my true twin flame, and going through this separation and this other death of like a piece of all of these things, and realizing how attached that I was to this cover, and realizing I had to release it, and realizing that, and what I really realized in that, when I was trying to recreate that image to look similar to the one I was originally shown, I was realizing that I was hanging on to doing that because of the process of what I'd been shown. But that was one template to show me one direction, and now it was empowerment. And the empowerment was saying, I have to let go of that image. That image existed, but now it's gone. Now it doesn't belong here. And it got me this far with this journey, but now this image has to be released, and a new image has to be created for my higher self, a higher place, and that is more encoded now with light codes and energy and what divine guidance wants. And I thought it was what guidance wants, but it's showing me that I also have the empowerment in it, that I can make a new choice now. I don't have to hang on to the attachment of that image, which was also connected to my twin flame dynamic. So it was taking back my power in doing that. I went into that. And so Billy started putting together an image for me that we were going back and forth on different things of a new type of image. And I was totally getting it and totally understanding and totally agreeing and believing it should be this new image. But then when he presented the first round, there was something missing, and I just didn't know what it was, and I couldn't put my finger on it. It really said everything. It was really everything that I said, other than a couple little things, but it wasn't it. So I had this dream about Tatiana, and I don't know if you've followed Tatiana myself, but we connected in this light language coding last year, during the Lionsgate last year, and I had visions of these light codes that she sent me after watching a video of mine, and ended up she brought into form exactly the images I was seeing. And she originally sent 5, but I had 8 codes, and she basically said, when I said, oh, do you by any chance have 3 more, or can you make 3 more? Or she's like, yep, I made 8, but I only sent you 5. So she had made all 8 of them. Well, 2 nights ago, I had this dream about Tatiana, and I was in her country, and I was with her family. Like I went to I actually did physically go there to visit, and she wasn't there. And I started feeling lost because she wasn't there, and there was more to it. But really, I was lost. She wasn't there, and I was trying to find her, and I felt alone and all these different things. And I woke up going, oh my God, I got to contact her. And she's been out of town, and she's been working on another art project from my card deck. And, but I just had this urge to reach out to her, but it didn't happen. In the process, she reached out to me. And in the process, then I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to share this dream with you, but I also need to share this kind of thing I'm in and talk this out and put some energy into this book cover and where it's at. So she's like, can we talk now? And last night we talked. Come to find out, she downloaded the exact same image I did, just like in the light codes. She also had heard that it had to do and was related with the book. So now she is actually creating the artistic image of the vision that's going to be encoded with light language and codes of this image of the rainbow bridge and what it means in the vortex. And then Billy's going to like take that and do what he needs to do with it and put it together and create the cover. So, and they're both going to bat because they have this deadline. So again, I want to thank you both. And again, I want to thank all the clients that have helped show me what I need to know to build this bridge energetically. But what I want to share for you guys, I want to share with you what that rainbow bridge means, what I've been shown it means from a written standpoint, which is a little portion of my introduction for this new book that I'm talking about that's coming into form. And there's like a shorter version I'm going to read first of really what the rainbow bridge means, and then I'm going to read the actual insert of a piece of the introduction. So the rainbow bridge is the gateway to enlightenment. It is the death of our old self, giving birth to our truth as we connect to our higher self and find our sacred self, which is creating a new identity in the process. As we go across the rainbow bridge of letting go of our old self, our old ways, we move beyond circumstances as we find the inner peace that will help us raise our heart's frequency. That activates our heart so we can align with our heart's desires and let love live in all areas of our life, which is creating the heart harmony that helps us align with our destiny and that allows us to experience abundance, and that is bringing energy into physical form in all areas of our life. Now, I kind of mentioned that, but I just wanted to recap it because it's just like a little definition of the rainbow bridge being the gateway to enlightenment and what it means. Now I want to share a little deeper meaning for you of the actual excerpt from the book. To come. It's coming. As our soul evolves through what I've been shown to be the 4 phases of the ascension process, which we will explore in depth through a complete 5-part series of Twin Flame Codebreaker. It is a necessary part of our Twin Flame journey with the purpose of defragmenting our soul and creating personal freedom so that we can discover our truth and find our sacred self. Restoring wholeness is necessary to align with all that we have come here to be, do, and have. In doing so, we reconnect to the inner presence, a divine intelligence that has been and will always be within our sacred being. Throughout this process, we complete multiple circles of life, experiencing a never-ending series of cycles of letting go, putting an end to our old ways, and creating space for new beginnings, which allows us to recreate ourselves from a higher state of being. This also allows us to recreate our template of a new way to handle the way that we're going to handle things going forward. Just know that. These repeated cycles forces us to go through the challenging obstacles so that we can learn these life lessons. At the same time, we experience the seasons of ourselves by producing the death of who we were, giving birth to a better version of ourselves. As we grow through this process, we reflect on that which we have learned, which helps us to integrate the higher conscious awareness and awakens us to our new identity, ultimately finding our sacred self in the process. Perhaps you're wondering, how do I find my sacred self? And even more importantly, how do I awaken my sacred self? Or maybe you've been asking the question, how do I become spiritually enlightened? How do I connect with my spiritual gifts? Most likely, you're one of the majority of soul seekers on our planet that is rapidly awakening, whom have experienced spiritual amnesia and has been spiritually unconscious, and now remembering your identity and reconnecting to your higher consciousness in the search of being full and fulfilling who you are. I too was one of society's statistically sleeping earth angels in a spiritual coma until I fully awakened and slowly began to remove the veil of amnesia. As I transcended by experiencing the pain of my own death, of my own being, and giving birth to the highest version of myself through what I call the Gateway of Enlightenment, where we cross the rainbow bridge, experiencing that death of our lower self that unlocks the personal freedom, giving birth to that higher self. A journey that we must experience on our way in our quest back to the innocence as we find that sacred self that helps us align with our source so that we can experience the oneness then with all that is. This pathway has taught me to see my own reflection in the face of all adversity and viewing every painful situation and every brutal obstacle and every lesson and every encounter with others as my teacher. By staying open to hear the answer to the question, what are you teaching me? It has taken accountability and looking and being willing to face the man in the mirror. It is allowing ourselves to change our perception as we send out these projections that are the reflections of the teachers that we need to trigger in us, what we need to learn within ourselves. And as we return back to the innocence of connecting to the sacred self, your vibrational frequency will raise, allowing you to shift in alignment into your destiny. Getting into alignment with the source allows you to enter the vortex of all possibilities, which is getting in the glow. To align with your highest vibration and tune into the channel that holds the pleasures that you signed up to experience, you must shift from the finite to the infinite and from fear to freedom in order to fully awaken and ignite the light from within. Then you become that light that you were born to be so that you can align with your I am presence that holds your ancient truth and your wisdom of who you already are and what you came here to experience. Therefore, I'd like to remind you of who you are. You are I am light, I am love, I am one. Therefore, I am one with the source, with purpose, and with my beloved. Nothing is separate from me. In this vortex is my destiny. It already exists. All I have to do is tune in to the right channel of my soul's signature frequency, and everything is there waiting on me, including my beloved. Now, I got to tell you, I had a session this morning with a client, and as I had the session, I saw the image of this video, which I had the image of the cover of the book cover. I saw it also last week or earlier in the week with a client, another client, but that time it had a stormy sky. This time the storm had passed and it's clear. And so the storm is over. And the difference between having the image have the storm and not have the storm had to do with the free will of perception of what we choose. Do we get to choose the storm in our perception? Or are we going to choose to have the light of day and choose to experience it? It's our choice. This is the crossroads. The storm is only our perception. So in that process of being presented with two options of storm or no storm, I chose in this book cover that we're beyond the storm. We can jump timelines. We do not have to live in the storm anymore. And as I had the session and I saw the image of the book and this client walking the pathway of the gateway to enlightenment and crossing the vortex to the other side of herself and resurrecting into her highest being and basically spreading her wings and flying, which she was the same client I told you last week about spreading her wings to fly at the edge of the cliff. She said to me today that, in this gateway, I also show an ocean. And I had sent her a link to some music that had to do with the ocean and the purification process of this. And she said that her twin this week, she sent that that link to her twin, and her twin had used it all week and felt like even going to the seaside because she inspired him through this. By me sending her, she sent him. He was inspired to go to the ocean for purification. So today, after our session, and she's walking the Rainbow Bridge and she's spreading her wings to fly, she's telling me how she has realized to let go of this idea that her twin exhausts her sometimes, but to view him through her perception, that in her perception, she realized that he was the wind beneath her wings that is allowing her to fly higher and into new dimensions she would have never known otherwise. And when you can view your twin flame journey from that perception, you are aligning with the vortex of your destiny and seeing the fullness of all of your journey as being part of what you needed to get you through the gateway of enlightenment, to connect to your higher self, the greatest version of you, the other side of you, tapping into your destiny, fulfilling your alignment with Source so you can live out your dreams from your heart and experience all of that. And so I want to thank you for showing up, and please be sure to like, comment, share the shine. Make sure that you check out that Reboot Your Soul course in the link below. It can just be that gateway of enlightenment to help build the bridge to get you from where you're at to where you want to be. Send you loads of love. Namaste.